Olivia Ray didn't mean to break the vending machine, she just wanted a granola bar. She slapped the side of the metal box with the heel of her hand, glaring at the stubborn coil that refused to release her snack. "Are you serious right now?" she muttered, stepping back to assess the damage. The machine groaned, tilted slightly. And then the front glass cracked with a sharp snap. Her heart jumped. "Oh no. No, need a hand?" a deep voice said behind her. She whirled around, practically tripping over her own feet. Standing there, dressed in a crisp charcoal suit that probably cost more than her rent, was a man who looked like he'd just walked off a runway or out of a Forbes magazine article. Tall, broad-shouldered, with sharp cheekbones and short chestnut hair, the guy had an expensive kind of calm about him. It's not what it looks like," Olivia said, backing away from the cracked glass. "I didn't mean to break it. I did hit it, but not hard. It was stuck." The man stepped forward, glancing at the splintered glass and then at her. "Looks like it fought back." She blinked. "You're not security?" "No," he said, crouching down to inspect the machine. "But I know a thing or two about stubborn machines." "Do you own the building?" she asked warily. He looked up at her, amused. "Not this one." She immediately regretted showing up in her paint-streaked jeans and oversized hoodie. She'd just come from the community center where she volunteered to paint murals for kids, and this was supposed to be her quick snack stop before her second job at the bookstore. Instead, she was now being stared at by a man who looked like he drank cocktails on rooftops and had assistants named things like Preston. "I can pay for the damage," she blurted. Not right now, but I can come back tomorrow." He stood slowly, brushing his hands off. "Relax. I'm not here to arrest you." "Great. But just in case someone does try to arrest me, can you tell them the truth? That I wasn't trying to rob snacks?" He gave a short laugh. "You're the first person I've ever seen go to war over a granola bar." "Desperate times," she said, crossing her arms. There was a pause. His eyes lingered on her face a moment longer than necessary, but not in a creepy way. "Curious. Intrigued. I'm Logan Thorne, by the way." She tilted her head. "Cool name. Sounds like a movie villain." "Thanks. And you are?" "Olivia Ray, vending machine vandal." "Well, Olivia," he said, stepping aside, "let me make it up to you before you get arrested for snack assault. There's a café across the street. Let me buy you something that won't require brute force." She hesitated. "You don't have to do that." "I know," he said, holding the door open for her. "But I want to." The café was warm and smelled like fresh pastries. Olivia eyed the display of croissants like they were diamonds. Logan, on the other hand, ordered 2 lattes and 2 pastries like it was nothing. No hesitation. No checking the prices. She watched as he pulled out a sleek black card and handed it to the barista. Definitely not your average guy. They sat by the window. She tried not to notice the way his watch subtly flashed in the light, or that it was probably worth more than her car. "So, what do you do, Olivia Ray?" he asked, sipping his coffee. "I work at a bookstore," she said. "And I paint murals on the side. Community stuff." He nodded slowly. "That's cool. What about you?" she asked, narrowing her eyes. "You look like you're either a lawyer, a politician, or one of those guys who owns, 5 companies and never sleeps." His lips twitched. "I guess I'm closer to the last one." "Uh-huh. So, what's your deal, Logan Thorne?" He leaned back in his chair, eyes unreadable. "Let's just say I invest in things that interest me." "That's vague." "On purpose." She raised an eyebrow. "You some kind of secret agent?" "If I was, I wouldn't tell you." "Touché." There was a pause. Outside, the city kept moving, cars passing, people dodging puddles, the world spinning on. But inside the cafe, something settled. The air between them changed. Neither of them said it, but it was there. This wasn't just a random conversation. He glanced at her again. "You always this fiery over snacks?" "Only when I haven't eaten all day." "Then I should probably order you dinner next time." She blinked. "Next time? You didn't scare me off, if that's what you're wondering. I literally broke a vending machine. And I liked watching you do it." She laughed, surprised. "You're weird." "So are you," he said, smiling. "That's why this works." She stared at him for a second, unsure how a broken vending machine had somehow led her to sitting across from the most attractive, mysterious man she'd ever met. But here he was, drinking coffee with her like it was the most normal thing in the world. 2 days later, he showed up at the bookstore. Olivia had just finished restocking the romance section when she turned around and saw him leaning against the counter, watching her. "Seriously?" she asked. "You stalking me now?" "I wanted to see if you were real," he said. "Or if I imagined you." "I'm very real," she said, walking over. "And very busy. I'll only take 5 minutes." She hesitated. "Fine." He handed her a small box. "Apology gift. For the vending machine incident." She opened it and stared. Inside was a silver bracelet, delicate, with a tiny charm shaped like a granola bar. Her mouth dropped open. "You didn't." "I did." "Logan." He grinned. "I thought it was appropriate." "You're ridiculous." "Maybe," he said, "but you're smiling." She rolled her eyes, but her cheeks flushed. "You're lucky I like pastries." "I'm lucky I met you." There was a beat of silence. He meant it. She could see it in his eyes. And for the first time in a long time, Olivia Ray felt something she hadn't let herself feel in years. Hope. Maybe even something more. She looked down at the bracelet and smiled. Maybe breaking that vending machine wasn't such a disaster after all. "Is that paint in your hair?" Olivia froze mid-step, her fingers brushing the top of her head. "Where?" Logan reached forward, plucking a streak of dried turquoise from a lock near her temple. "Got it." She narrowed her eyes. "You really shouldn't sneak up on people in art studios. Someone could have mistaken you for a canvas and thrown paint at you. You'd be the first person I'd let get away with that," he said, stepping back to survey the space. The studio was quiet for the moment, the kids having just left for the day, their unfinished murals still drying on the far wall. "You didn't tell me you worked in a place like this," he added, walking past easels and old supply shelves. "You didn't ask," she replied, wiping her hands on a cloth. "And you didn't call." "I didn't want to text. I'd rather see your face." She gave him a look. "That's dangerously close to being charming." "I'm known for being dangerous." Olivia arched a brow. "Let me guess. You're also mysterious, brooding, and emotionally unavailable." 2 out of 3, he said. "I'll let you guess which." She turned away to hide her grin, pretending to tidy the paintbrushes. "So why are you here, Logan?" "I wanted to see what kind of world you disappear into when you're not dodging vending machines." "Well," she gestured around. "This is it. Cracked tiles, peeling windows, and more paint on the floor than on the walls." "It's perfect," he said quietly. She glanced over. He wasn't looking at the room. He was looking at her. "Don't do that," she said, her voice low. "Do what?" "Look at me like I'm rare." "Maybe you are." She busied herself with locking the cabinet. "You don't even know me." "I know you care enough to do this for free," he said. "That tells me more than you think." Olivia didn't respond right away. She focused on the key in the lock, the click of the latch, the faint hum of traffic outside the cracked window. Logan's presence filled the room in a way that made it hard to breathe. Not because it was overwhelming, but because it was steady, unshakable. "You want a tour?" she asked finally. He smiled with his eyes. "Lead the way." She walked him past the mural the kids had been working on, an explosion of color and shapes that barely made sense but somehow still felt alive. "They chose the theme," she said. "I just helped them not paint the ceiling." "They did this?" Logan asked, stopping in front of it. "It's wild." "They're wild," she said. "Most of them come here to escape whatever's waiting for them at home. So I let them go crazy. No rules. Just expression." "Sounds like something I could have used growing up." She looked at him. "You?" He nodded. "I wasn't always in suits." "You don't say." He glanced away, and for the first time, she saw a flicker of something behind his eyes. Not sadness, not regret, but the kind of silence that comes from knowing too much too young. What happened? She asked, softer now. My parents died when I was 13, he said. Car crash. After that, it was boarding schools and cold guardians. Money didn't fix anything. Just made it quieter. She didn't say anything, just let the words settle. I learned early that people will either pity you or want something from you, he added. So I built my own walls. And now I'm trying to see what happens when I don't. Olivia exhaled slowly. Well, for what it's worth, you don't seem like someone who hides. I do, he said. But you make it harder. She looked away first. Later, after she locked up the studio, Logan walked with her along the sidewalk in the fading light. The city buzzed around them, horns, laughter, distant music, but their pace was slow, their steps in sync. I have a proposition, he said suddenly. Is this where you offer me a job at your private spy agency? No, he said, but I want you to come somewhere with me. She gave him a wary glance. Where? There's a gallery opening tomorrow night. I'm part of the board. It's black tie, champagne, the works. She laughed. Yeah, okay. Let me just dig my one fancy dress out of the fictional closet I don't have. I already took care of that, he said. She stopped walking. What do you mean, you took care of that? There's a boutique downtown. They'll be expecting you tomorrow at noon. Everything's already arranged. Her mouth opened, closed again. You bought me a dress? No, he said. I curated an experience. You're impossible. I'm persuasive. She stared at him. Why do you want me there, Logan? He didn't hesitate. Because I want them to see what I see. And what's that? A woman who doesn't know how rare she is. Her heart thudded. You barely know me. I'm trying to, he said. She was quiet a beat. What's the catch? No catch, he said. Just one condition. She crossed her arms. Which is? Don't say no before you try. She bit the inside of her cheek. You're insane. Maybe, he said. But you're still thinking about saying yes. She shook her head, but she was smiling as she walked away. The next day, Olivia stood in the boutique at noon sharp, staring at the collection of gowns presented to her by a woman named Valentina with an accent she couldn't place and a clipboard she never put down. Every detail had been arranged, her measurements already known, styles curated to her vibe, whatever that meant. She chose a midnight blue gown with a neckline that made her blush and matching heels that made her feel 6 inches taller. By evening, she was stepping into a black car that had been sent to pick her up. The driver held the door, greeted her by name. She tried not to gawk at the sleek interior, the chilled water bottles, the faint scent of leather and something expensive she couldn't identify. When she arrived, Logan was waiting outside the grand entrance of the gallery. He looked at her like everything else disappeared. You clean up well, Olivia Ray. She swallowed. You're not so bad yourself. He offered his arm. Ready to shock some people? Depends on how much champagne they've had. Inside, the gallery shimmered under crystal lights. People turned when they walked in, not just because of Logan, who clearly belonged in this world, but because of her. Because he was looking at her like she was the only thing worth noticing. And for the first time in her life, Olivia felt like she belonged. She didn't know where this was going. But she knew one thing. This wasn't just a night out. It was the beginning of something she never saw coming. The champagne flutes clinked in the background, but Olivia barely registered the hum of conversation or the soft jazz echoing through the marble gallery. Every step she took beside Logan felt like crossing into another world, one lined with polished floors, hushed laughter, and people who wore confidence like custom tailoring. A woman in a floor-length silk gown, dripping in diamonds, approached them with a practiced smile. Logan, darling, you've been elusive. He greeted her with a polite nod. Genevieve, enjoying the exhibit. I was, until I realized you brought someone, she said, turning her eyes toward Olivia with a glance that swept her from head to toe. And who is this? Olivia didn't flinch. I'm the reason he's smiling tonight. Genevieve blinked, her lips parting in faint surprise before she let out a laugh that didn't touch her eyes. Charming. Logan's voice was cool. "We'll catch up later." As they moved away, Olivia leaned slightly toward him. "She hates me. She hates anyone who reminds her I have a life outside of business. Is this what your world's always like?" He didn't answer right away. They passed a sculpture installation, and his hand found the small of her back, guiding her gently through the crowd. "It's not mine," he said. "It's the one I built to survive. And now, I'm trying to remember what it feels like to breathe in it." A quietness settled between them, different from before. Not awkward, just aware. They stopped in front of a large painting, all reds and sharp lines. Olivia tilted her head, studying it. "What do you see?" Logan asked. "Someone trying to scream without making a sound." He looked at her, then the painting again. "Most people say it's chaos. Maybe they're not listening hard enough." They drifted further into the gallery, pausing here and there, but eventually Logan guided her toward a raised platform at the back, a cordoned-off section with a view overlooking the entire exhibit. A waiter in black offered them a tray of hors d'oeuvres. Logan waved it away and handed Olivia a flute of champagne. "Tell me something you've never told anyone," he said, watching her over the rim of his glass. She hesitated, then glanced around before answering. "I almost didn't go to college. I was going to work full-time at a diner and take care of my sister after our mom bailed. But she pushed me to apply. Said I needed to learn how to want something bigger." "Did you?" "I wanted to paint murals on buildings no one looked at. So yeah, I guess I did." He leaned closer. "I want to know everything about you." That's a dangerous thing to say to someone who once pierced her own ear with a safety pin. He laughed, genuinely this time, the sound tugging something loose in her chest. Then a voice cut through the din behind them. Logan, a man in a navy suit, older, with silver at his temples, stepped forward. Logan's posture shifted subtly. "Richard," Logan said, "didn't expect to see you here. The board pushed for it. They want a face tonight. Someone who still looks like he hasn't aged since the merger." Logan's jaw tightened slightly. "And you're here to make sure I behave?" Richard's eyes flicked to Olivia. "No, I'm here to see why you've suddenly become unpredictable." "I'd say that's overdue." Richard didn't reply, just gave Olivia a look that was all calculation. "You must be new." "I'm Olivia," she said, extending a hand. "I work with kids who think art is the only thing that listens." He raised an eyebrow but shook her hand. "Interesting choice of company, Logan." Logan's voice cooled. "She's not company. She's someone I respect." Richard gave a thin smile. "Then I hope she knows what she's walking into." As he walked off, Olivia turned to Logan. "Friend of yours. My father's former business partner. He thinks I should be married to a senator's daughter and living in Connecticut." Yikes. He looked at her. "Still want to be here?" "I'm not the one who looks like he wants to throw someone through a sculpture." They eased back into the rhythm of the night, but something unspoken lingered. Olivia could feel the weight of every glance. Every whisper passed behind manicured hands. She didn't belong here, not by their rules. But Logan hadn't let go of her hand once. Later, after they left the gallery, the car didn't head toward her apartment. "You're kidnapping me now?" she asked. "Borrowing you for a little longer." They drove uptown, past rows of lit windows and quiet avenues, until the car stopped in front of a building so tall it disappeared into the clouds. "Where are we?" "My place." The elevator was silent, smooth, and fast, opening into a penthouse that looked like it belonged in an architecture magazine. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed the glittering city below, and the space was sleek, modern, but not cold. Olivia stepped inside carefully. "So this is what curated experiences look like." He loosened his tie. "I don't bring people here." "Why me?" "Because you make me forget I'm supposed to pretend all the time." She walked to the window, staring out at the skyline. "It's beautiful." He joined her, close enough that their shoulders touched. You're not overwhelmed? A little. I can handle that. She turned to face him. You don't scare me, Logan. You should. Why? Because you're rich? Because people look at you like you built the sky? That's not what scares me. Then what does? Wanting something I can't control. His voice was quiet. You think I'm going to disappear? I think this doesn't make sense. It doesn't have to. Not yet. She stared at him for a long moment. You're not what I thought. And what did you think? That you'd be like everyone else who wants a distraction. I don't want a distraction, he said. I want something real. She didn't answer. But she didn't step away either. He reached up, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear, and for a moment everything slowed, the sound of the city, the ticking of some invisible clock in her chest. Then she kissed him. Not out of impulse. Not out of confusion. Out of clarity. Because for the first time in years, she wasn't surviving. She was choosing. And Logan Thorne, billionaire or not, wasn't just a man in a suit anymore. He was the one who saw her, even when she didn't know she was looking to be seen. Rain streaked across the penthouse windows in lazy rivulets. The city beyond blurred into a watercolor of gold and steel. Olivia sat on the edge of the grand piano bench, barefoot, legs tucked beneath her, wearing one of Logan's shirts that hung off her shoulder like it had always belonged there. He stood across the room, pouring 2 glasses of wine without asking if she wanted one. He already knew. That was what unsettled her the most, not the wealth, not the view, not even the way his voice dipped when he said her name, but how instinctively he read her. You're being quiet, Logan said, offering her a glass. I'm not used to silence meaning something good. He lowered himself onto the couch, resting his forearms on his knees. You think this is too fast? I think if I breathe too hard, it might all vanish. It won't. She looked down at the wine. You say that like you can promise it. I can. Her eyes lifted to his, steady now. I need to ask you something. Anything. Why me? Why walk into my life with your perfect suits and impossible gestures? He leaned back slowly. Because I was standing in a room full of people pretending to care, and then you showed up and broke a vending machine with the full force of your soul. That's not exactly poetic. It was honest. You were hungry and furious and unapologetic. I hadn't seen something that real in years. And now I can't look away. The glass in her hand trembled slightly, but she set it aside before he could notice. She rose, walking past him to the window, placing her palm against the glass. Her reflection stared back barefaced, unguarded, completely herself. I got a call from the community center today, she said quietly. He stood. Everything okay? They want to do a permanent installation. A full wall. One of the kids submitted our project to a city grant initiative without telling me. She turned, eyes wide. We got it. That's incredible. I'm going to need supplies. A new scaffold. Weatherproofing. Permits. I'll handle it. She shook her head. No, that's not why I told you. Then why? Because I want to do this on my own. I need to. He nodded once. Then I'll be the guy who brings you coffee and reminds you to eat. Her mouth curved. You do that. I do worse. She stepped forward. You scare me, Logan. Because I'm falling? Because I might be too. He reached for her hand, fingers brushing hers. Then fall. The next morning, Olivia found herself at a hardware supplier on the edge of the city, bartering over primer costs and arguing about scaffold height. Her phone buzzed with a message from the director of the community center, permits approved. She exhaled, rolling her shoulders. It was happening. The mural would stretch across the western wall of the building, visible from the street, a riot of color and movement that told the story of the kids who found a second home inside those walls. She stood in front of the blank concrete, already seeing every brushstroke in her mind. Later that week, Logan arrived unannounced with 2 folding chairs and a cooler of iced tea. You're overdressed for a construction site, she said, eyeing his tailored slacks. I came to see the genius at work. She tossed him a paintbrush. Then grab a roller. You're on background duty. He blinked. Is that a promotion or punishment? I guess we'll find out. They worked until the sun dipped behind the rooftops, the wall now a burst of color and emotion. Logan's strokes were surprisingly steady, if a little cautious. "You've done this before," she said. "Boarding school art class." "I was terrible." "You're passable." "That's the nicest thing you've ever said to me." She paused, watching him. "You ever think about what your parents would say if they saw you now?" He didn't look away. "Sometimes I wonder if they'd recognize me at all." "I think they would," she said. "Especially now." The mural took shape over the next 2 weeks. Olivia barely slept, consumed by color and composition. Logan came every day, sometimes with food, sometimes with just his presence, always patient. One afternoon, as she stood on the scaffold, the wind tugging her hair loose from its knot, she spotted a black town car pulling up across the street. A man stepped out, Richard. He crossed the sidewalk with precision, stopping directly below her. "Miss Ray," he called up. "A word." She climbed down slowly. "If you're here to tell me to stay away from Logan, you're wasting your breath." He tucked his hands into his coat pockets. "I'm here to ask you to be careful." "That's vague. Logan's past isn't as polished as he pretends. He's built this image, this empire, but underneath, he's still chasing something." She folded her arms. "That's not your concern anymore." "It is if he gets hurt." She stepped closer. "You think I'm going to break him?" "I think you're the first person who could." She didn't respond. He took the silence as dismissal and walked away. That night, as they watched the mural dry under the setting sun, Olivia told Logan what Richard had said. "I'm not afraid of being broken," Logan said. "I'm afraid of never letting anyone close enough to matter." "You're not scared of me?" "I'm terrified of you." She leaned against his shoulder. "Good. Then we're even." On the day of the mural's unveiling, the block was cordoned off. Kids from the community center gathered in handmade shirts bearing their own painted designs. News crews arrived. The mayor gave a short speech. Olivia stood at the edge, paint still under her nails, heart pounding. Logan took the stage, dressed in jeans for the first time she'd seen, and spoke briefly. "This wall isn't just art," he said. "It's proof that when you invest in people, not profits, you get color instead of concrete. Hope instead of hollow." He stepped aside and the cloth was pulled back. Applause thundered through the crowd. Later, as the sun dipped behind the buildings and the crowd dispersed, Olivia found Logan standing alone, watching the mural like it was a dream he hadn't dared to have until now. She touched his hand. "You ready?" "For what?" "For the rest of it. Everything after this." He turned to her, eyes clear. "Only if you're with me." She smiled. "Then let's go." He kissed her there, under the mural, with the city watching and the sky wide open above them. It wasn't fireworks or fanfare. It was real. And it was forever. The first snow of the season dusted the rooftops like powdered sugar, softening the hard edges of the city. Olivia pressed her palms to the glass of Logan's penthouse window, watching the quiet drift of flakes. The mural unveiling had been 3 weeks ago, but its aftershocks still rippled through her life: interviews, grant offers, and a new wave of kids signing up for art classes at the center. Her phone buzzed constantly now, and for the first time in her life, it wasn't because someone needed her to fix something. They wanted her vision. Behind her, Logan finished a call. She heard the snap of his laptop closing and the rustle of his footsteps across the hardwood. "Investor meeting locked in for Thursday," he said, sliding his arms around her waist from behind. "But I'd rather talk about you." "You always say that." "Because it's always true." She leaned back into him slightly, her voice quieter. "I got offered a position." He turned her to face him. "What kind of position?" "Creative director for a new citywide youth arts initiative. I get to design the programs, hire instructors, work with schools directly. It's full-time, with a salary." He gave a small nod, his expression unreadable. "And it's in D.C. A long silence stretched between them. "You'd be brilliant at it," he said finally. "I know. That's what scares me." He studied her face. "Do you want to go?" "I don't know," she said truthfully. "It feels huge." Like everything I've worked for is finally opening up. But I'd have to leave you. Logan stepped back, running a hand through his hair. I won't stop you. I didn't ask you to. I know. That's what scares me. She laughed softly, but her eyes were sharp. You think I'm going to vanish now that I have options? I think I've spent most of my life watching people walk away when things got complicated. I'm not them. I know. But I've never had to fight to keep someone before. I don't know how. You don't have to fight me, Logan. You just have to ask me to stay. His mouth parted, but no words came. She gave a small nod. That's what I thought. She walked into the bedroom without another word. The door closed softly behind her. The next morning, Olivia woke to find the penthouse empty. His laptop was gone, and so was he. There was a note on the kitchen counter in handwriting she hadn't seen before. Come to the studio at midnight. We're something you can move in. She stared at it, heart knocking in her ribs. She hadn't been to the studio since the unveiling. It had been too busy, too much. But she hadn't expected him to disappear again. Not like this. That night, she arrived in leggings and a hoodie, hair pulled into a bun, heart ready for battle. The street was quiet, the sidewalks wet from melting snow. The studio lights were on. She stepped inside and froze. The entire space had been transformed. Gone were the scattered brushes and cracked tiles. The floor had been sanded and sealed, the walls freshly painted. Strings of soft lights hung from the ceiling, casting a golden glow. In the center of the room was a single easel, covered by a white cloth. Logan stood beside it, wearing jeans and a black shirt, hands clasped behind his back. "What is this?" she asked. His voice was steady. "A promise." She walked cautiously toward him. "You've been busy. I needed to fix something." She folded her arms. "You didn't break anything." "I almost did." He took a breath. "I didn't ask you to stay yesterday because I thought love meant letting someone go chase their dreams. But I realized something." "What?" "Love also means building something worth staying for." He stepped aside and pulled the cloth from the easel. It wasn't a painting. It was a blueprint. A new studio, twice the size, with classrooms, gallery space, and a rooftop garden for outdoor exhibits. And at the bottom, in bold letters, the Raythorn Center for Creative Futures. Her knees went weak. "What is this?" "A partnership. I bought the building next door. We'll renovate it. You'll run the programs your way. I'll handle the logistics. We'll do it together." She stared at him. "You do all that?" "I already did. I thought you didn't know how to fight for someone." "I learned." She laughed, tears slipping down her face. "You idiot." He stepped closer, cupping her face. "Stay here. Build this life with me. We don't have to choose between your dream and us. We make them the same thing." "I love you," she said, voice thick. "I love you more," he whispered, kissing her. They danced under the lights, barefoot and swaying to no music. Just the sound of their laughter and the world finally getting quiet around them. A month later, they opened the new center with a ribbon cutting attended by the mayor, students, and families from every borough. The mural was moved inside, preserved and proud, the crown jewel of the first gallery wall. Logan proposed in the atrium on one knee, in front of a class of wide-eyed 6-year-olds who immediately demanded cake. They married 6 months later in the rooftop garden, surrounded by color and sunlight and every person who had ever believed in them. Olivia wore a gown covered in hand-painted florals by the kids themselves. Logan wore navy, no tie, and a look on his face that said he'd finally found home. He whispered at the altar, "I still remember the vending machine." She grinned. "I still remember the granola bar." They kissed to applause and confetti and sunlight catching in her hair. And when they danced that night, it was to the sound of everything they'd built together, the laughter of children on the floor below, the city breathing outside the windows, and the quiet promise of love that wasn't fleeting or fragile. It was forever. And they never let go.